Welcome to the Fair Housing Insiders. We are so thankful that you joined us. And please remember to subscribe here on our YouTube channel or follow and like us on your favorite social media outlet, which you can find links to in our show notes for even more fair housing news and insights. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Fair Housing Insiders, episode 104. Today, we are focusing on the recent HUD marketing recommendations when it comes to avoiding discriminatory advertising when artificial intelligence is involved. That was a very long and very full sentence. A lot in there. So based on that sentence, you know you're going to get an amazing episode as always. I'm your host, Jonathan Saar. And today we are joined by Kathy Williams. So Kathy, thank you as always when these notices or when HUD puts anything out. We're always grateful to have yours and Leslie's insights onto it. So thank you for being with us here today and your comments on this topic. So let's get into it. What's the overall purpose of the recent HUD notice on advertising?
Well, it's good to be with you, Jonathan. HUD published a notice. They called it, and again, this is kind of long, but it's called Guidance on Application of the Fair Housing Act to the Advertising of Housing, Credit, and Other Real Estate Transactions through Digital Platforms. They published that on April 29th of this year. While this notice covers how the application of artificial intelligence can result in discriminatory advertising for several different industries involved surrounding housing, such as the credit and mortgage lending and mortgage insurance companies. This video we're doing today is going to focus solely on the advertising of sales and rental of both single and multifamily housing and related property management services. This is a very complicated topic, and the notice is impressively detailed, more so than many HUD notices, I think. So we're not going to attempt to cover all the information and examples contained in the entire notice, since we do try to keep these videos within reasonable length. And while a detailed understanding of all the things in this notice are just not necessary for most housing professionals, only if you work in the marketing department of a company, or if you work for a marketing company and actually work with the kind of ad platforms that this notice talks about. Most of our FHI community is not that targeted with the topics they need to know in great detail. So we're just going to explain the general concepts of this notice today with the intention of assisting housing professionals to better understand the Fair Housing Act's prohibitions against discriminatory advertising and how the use of AI without careful scrutiny can result in housing discrimination.
Okay, thank you, Kathy. Yeah, there's a lot to this topic. So for our audience, please stick around. Kathy's going to give us 4 tips to make sure our company's marketing is fair housing compliant. So look for those tips as we come towards the end of this program. So Kathy, thank you again. So let's go into our next question. We appreciate the overview on what it is and its potential impact on the housing industry. So who has the legal obligation to avoid discriminatory advertising?
As the HUD notice explains, the Fair Housing Act prohibits discriminatory advertising, which includes limiting access to information about housing opportunities, or providing different content with ads concerning housing. The potential liability for discriminatory advertising applies to both the advertiser, which is the company marketing its housing or management services, and it also applies to the ad platform. And that is the companies that have these products and systems that are used to produce and present the ads to potential lessors or buyers of the housing. For me, the most interesting part of HUD's notice is its descriptions of the varied and complicated functions within these ad platforms and how these systems, when operated by artificial intelligence, can unintentionally result in limiting the ads to portions of the populations based upon protected categories. And the ads can have thereby a discriminatory effect. Now, hopefully our audience will remember that the content, we've had lots of videos and lots of other information that has come out of FHI talking about both advertising discrimination and discriminatory effects or impacts, which can be found to be a violation of the Fair Housing Act, even when the discrimination is unintentional.
Very good. Thank you for that. And yes, I second your comments on the amount of content that we have produced to help our audience. And for our audience, just know in our show notes and in the post on the site, we'll include some other content that references what Kathy was talking about. It is one of the biggest topics in the history of this show, has been talking about marketing and advertising. So we need to stay relevant with what technology is out there and how it has an effect on our advertising and marketing. So now, thinking it from our audience perspective, Kathy, I mean, there's a lot of interest in artificial intelligence. There are people who are like, I don't know what that is. It just is way over my head. So I'm just going to give that to, a younger person maybe to take care of that. But we can't, ignorance is not going to be an excuse. And so again, that's another reason why we have this episode. So another question for you, how does AI have the potential to create discriminatory advertising?
HUD's notice explains how advertisers can choose various audience targeting tools when setting up an ad platform to conduct their marketing campaign. As an example, a management company is setting up a marketing program for multiple apartment communities throughout several different neighborhoods. The ad platforms permit advertisers to choose various categories of potential audiences for the ad campaign. Those potential audiences might be pre-selected by gender or age or income or location, activities, or other like personal characteristics of the people in that audience. If those audience categories involve protected categories, either directly or indirectly, what the notice calls proxies, the use of such categorization tools can result in discriminatory advertising.
Okay. Can you help us out and go a little deeper? You have an example?
Sure. The notice contains lots of examples, and again, we can't cover them all, but I'd like to focus maybe on one of those today in this video. Remember that property manager company I just mentioned who's doing their marketing campaign? So let's say they end up advertising its properties to predominantly minority areas. And in the campaign, there are disclaimers such as no criminal records allowed or good credit only. And then that same ad campaign for those same properties are marketed in more white areas, and they don't have those disclaimers in the ad.
Hmm.
I assume you see the problem.
Absolutely.
Those disclaimers are somewhat limiting for who's going to want to apply. Now, this is the part that I found the most interesting out of all this notice, and that is the ad platform could use these differences or disclaimers in different neighborhoods because it was intentionally put in there by the advertiser. But it's more likely that that disclaimer was instead not set up by the advertiser, but was added or made by the AI from the ad platform. Because the AI considers that that way of communication might be more effective to achieve the desired result for that targeted audience.
Okay. Very good. Thank you. Good examples. I know everyone in our audience can relate to the process and defining an ad and working on the copy that would be included in it. So appreciate the explanation, and we look forward to you giving us some of the key steps that we all need to do in order to be compliant. But for our audience, we'd love your feedback on this topic. So please, in the
Mhm.
comment section, what are you doing? What are some tips or best practices or adjustments that you feel our community would benefit from or would be involved in that discussion? So please feel free to share those things in the comments section for this video. So let's wrap this up, Kathy, with 4 steps that you're going to provide for us that advertisers should take when marketing residential homes and apartments. What are those 4 things?
The first one would be do your research prior to adopting whatever company and ad platform you're going to be using. And to do that, you have to have a basic understanding of what these possible problems are. And this HUD notice, by the way, is a great tool for that research, I think. And then once you have that information about what the concerns are, you take that before you contract with an ad platform and ask them what they have done about these potential concerns. How have they addressed them to avoid these fair housing problems? Then the second one would be make sure that when you're advertising with a company that you identify your ads as coming from a housing provider so that they know if they already have fair housing modifications to apply those to all of your ads. Be careful when applying any kind of audience data sets. And if you're going to use the platform tools, make sure the target audience is not going to result in applying any of the either the protected categories or their proxies. And last but not least, follow up your advertising campaigns to see what the outcome is. And if the outcome appears to be indicating that there's any kind of possible discriminatory advertising or results coming from that marketing campaign, you need to get in there, obviously, and make whatever alterations are necessary to avoid continuing that outcome.
All right. We hit all 4, huh? It's a lot. So take note, audience. We'll make sure that those are bulleted in the blog post. But thank you so much, Kathy, for your comments and explanation. And like you said before, it's a long notice, so there's a lot of information there. But we're very grateful that we can bring this topic to you as our community and help you really digest and dissect some things that you need to be paying attention to. So thank you for being here for episode 104. Thank you, Kathy, for joining us in our fair housing community. We look forward to your comments and your feedback. Next time, we'll see you soon. Take care, everyone. Thank you for joining us, and we can't wait to hear your feedback about today's episode. Do you have a topic that you would like to see discussed in a future episode? Feel free to share that with us. In the show notes, you'll see a link to sign up for our newsletter. This newsletter will keep you up to date with our latest episodes, blogs, and information about our online fair housing courses. Thank you again, and happy training.